Caddis Maximus here. Just a quick review of a few different kinds of these basic zip tie or cable tie installation tools. There's a variety of these tools made. There's some real nice ones that are $30, $40, $50 that do work pretty well. However, they're pretty darn rare because not very many people are going to spend that kind of money just to adjust a zip tie unless you're doing factory work or a low voltage electrician who has to install hundreds of zip ties a day. And even then, I see a lot of guys and they just like these light, small, simple zip tie installation tools. They're particularly durable. They're so small and lightweight that they can drop from virtually an unlimited distance and not really have any issues. We have three different brands here. We have more of a general. Harbor Freight does sell these as well, but the Harbor Freight ones are kind of like this style right here, just all plastic with a kind of a thinner plastic shell. They do try to buttress it. How these work is they have a little, well, I'll show inside the next one, but there's the Harbor Freight one. This is a professional brand. This is a Thomas and Betts. As we can see, they put a lot more structure. This one's a little funky because of how bulky it is, but it does work pretty well. And so what they have is they have this little finger that's inside there, and it's kind of hard to see, but when you put in the zip tie through the slot, or as you get the zip tie on, as you pull, that little finger comes up and will pull the zip tie, tightening it against the face. And you'll just continue to do that until it is tight. And then you grab it, and then the idea is that you twist. And the end of these have a little knife in them, and it will partially cut the zip tie, and then you would pull it off. Now, the issue that I've really had with these is that they, kind of how they're designed, they prompt you to want to twist it and then yank, and the front knife is not held on very well. Like this on this Thomas and Betts, most times they just want to bend outwards. It's kind of frustrating because a lot of times you have to just twist and then pull it off and still manually yank the end of the zip tie to get it to break. These also really don't work at all on small zip ties as far as cutting them. They'd only really work for tensioning them. But this is a nice thing about these tools, is having that face. You can really get them nice and tight quickly and easily without having to try to battle with them. It also holds them in a particular position if you want the nub in a certain spot. These are some of the best of these compact ones I've seen. These are the Malcos, and as you can see, they have a steel body on them with a plastic movable portion. This one's worked out better for me just because it has so much more rigidity. Even though the Thomas and Betts is pretty nice, I don't think any of them can really beat the one made out of metal, which is a bit more compact and rigid. This Malco also does a couple other things where they have a really nice deep cut for the cable cutter, where the Thomas and Betts is actually surprisingly short, and this Harbor Freight style one is really, really thin. This one actually cuts a little better than many of them. As you can also see, even though this is cheesy plastic, they insert the metal into the tip, and in this situation it's much better. Like this Thomas and Betts, it's just bent over. You can see how it's already bent from me trying it. So let's go ahead and see how these work. You'd take a zip tie and you just attach it to whatever you wanted to attach it to. Like, wow, that one's pretty tight. Like so, and then you just take one of these tools, you just put the zip tie in there, and it tightens it up. It will slip when it's reached its limit, at least on this one, and then you just twist like that. And in this situation it worked. And so that's how these are supposed to work. And on the larger zip ties, they generally do that, and it's really makes things pretty easy, especially if you're in a car or something, under a dash or in the engine bay. It's nice just to get the zip tie on and just wrench it up. Now, the issue with these, of course, is that they don't like to work with tiny ones. Actually, this tiny one won't even fit around them. But they do work much better with large ones. If we were to take this red zip tie here, and this is kind of where the Malcos come into their own because they have a much better capacity range. As we can see, this red zip tie still fits fully into the slot. Where on this Thomas and Betts, I can't even use the Thomas and Betts on this big red zip tie. The Harbor Freight one's a little better. So the Thomas and Betts is interesting because it's really for small zip ties, but it has a wide jaw opening. So I think they didn't do the greatest job on this tool, even though they're one of the best brands. The Malcos are pretty much the best for this situation. And it's just so easy just to do that and then twist them. And see, they don't always cut, and you have to do that sometimes, but that's just kind of the nature of these tools. And one last aspect is if we look closer here, we can see that they do a pretty good job at cutting pretty flush to the zip ties. And so that's another advantage. So I'm surprised a lot of people don't have seen these and don't really know what they are, but they're actually really handy if you're installing zip ties on anything, because it allows you just to get a nice cinching on them without them being ridiculously tight. And it's really a lot more ergonomic and a lot easier for them to do that. And the way they suck and then push right against the head, they end up holding much better, because sometimes you'll cinch down a zip tie, but you won't actually have it properly wrapped around because it hasn't been quite closed in a loop, because you're trying to hold it and then pull it, and it's kind of stretching it, where this way it would be if you were just pressing on with using two hands to install the zip tie. Once again, thank you so much for watching a Caddis Maximus review. Please subscribe. Bye.